Never give up. You're about to listen to the Darla Z, live from the Hollywood Room on the Bootleggers Music Group Radio. Award-winning singer-songwriter Darla Z brings you her special guests who share intimate stories about their lives, how they became successful in their chosen fields, how they learned from their mistakes, and how we can all make a positive difference in the lives of others. Welcome to Live from the Hollywood Room with your host, Darla Z.
Hi, I'm Darla Z. I'm coming to you live from the Hollywood Room, and I've got an exciting show for you today because I have Jordan Rayner, one of the Voice's top finalists of season 24. I'm super excited to have her on the show. She's a multi-instrumentalist, and she's a wonderful songwriter. So hello.
Hello, good to see you. Hello.
Good to see you too. You know, I did see a video of yours today, and I almost wore pink for you.
Oh, too soon. Too soon.
Then I was looking for a cowboy hat, and I knew I had a pink cowboy hat, and I couldn't find it, and I was really going to get decked out for you.
Oh, I'm so glad you didn't.
So what I'm talking about is on YouTube. She's talking about getting ready to do the final show for The Voice, and so she didn't. This is Jordan is known as the woman in black, and she likes to wear black in all of her performances and her videos. You'll see it, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. But anyway, she didn't realize that the final number of the show was a Barbie number from the Barbie show. And so she had to wear pink. And how did that go for you?
Oh, it went. I protested. I tried every which way to wiggle out of it. I told the producers, I said, I have a brand to stick to. Is there any way you can just put a little pink brim in my hat? And they're like, no, it's all or nothing. And I knew I wanted to finish what I started. I went from the blind audition, and I wanted to be able to say that I made it from the audition to the finale. So I played ball, but I said, you're not taking my damn hat from me. So they found me a pink hat to go with it, and
Well,
we made do.
You looked fabulous.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I did not feel fabulous. And it's ironic that we ended up doing a Barbie number because just maybe like 2 rounds previously, I had told Gwen Stefani that I was wearing all the pink I own. I told her I didn't have a Barbie side. I don't know if you remember that, but you know, it was Hole in the Bottle, and it was a Kelsey Ballerini song that I had sung, and Gwen had told me, she's like, you know, I'm surprised that you did a Kelsey song because she's kind of this little Barbie. And I said, I don't even have a Barbie side, but sure enough, I had to find one.
Yeah. Well, and I admire you for doing that. I mean, it's almost like asking Johnny Cash to wear pink. It just doesn't go.
It doesn't go. It doesn't go. And it, you know, and I've had some criticism because I've spoken out about, you know, that I was very uncomfortable, and I was a little emotionally distraught about it because it was so starkly different from anything that was comfortable. And I've had some criticism, you know, from people going, oh, you know, boohoo, you had to wear pink on national TV in front of superstars and having the opportunity of a lifetime, you know. But honestly, when you have to wear something that is so starkly not you, it's actually a worst case scenario to have to wear it in front of millions of people. It's kind of like, you know, that dream that we all have of being back in our high school gymnasium in our underwear, just very vulnerable.
Yeah, and you know what? I really like the fact that you want to stick to your brand. I think that's super, and that for young artists that are starting out, that's a great devotion of yours to do that. So, but yeah, a compromise for purposes of that.
Yeah,
that's not like you're, you know, doing something awful, stripping.
No,
it
just you know, when you're on a network TV show and they have their own agendas, and of course the Barbie movie was hot at the time, and so they were doing it for ratings, and you're along for the ride, you know, and there's times where you just have to play ball, and so we did, but I didn't like it one bit.
Well, and I jumped right into that story because I loved it so much, but I do want to do a little background for you. I know you're from Atoka, Oklahoma, and that's where I'm from. And
Yes.
yeah, and a man, you're a mean guitarist.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Years without a social life.
Well, that was funny. Um,
You seem surprised.
yeah, I am. But no, I mean, I heard your song "Straight Shot,"
Yeah.
and you start out kicking it off with that lead guitar, and I was like, wow, she's jamming. I love that.
Well, thank
I play
you.
guitar, but not like that. So that was really pretty cool.
I appreciate you, man. I had a voice defect from the time that I was a baby. And so singing wasn't in the cards for me, as far as, like my dreams and aspirations. And so as a kid who struggled to sing and even struggled to talk, I just wanted to express myself musically the best way I knew how. And so I resorted to guitar and I became great at guitar. And then as I got into my mid 20s and I got fed up with my voice problems, I went to a doctor, got a plan, started treatments, got diagnosed and started voice therapy and speech therapy. Found out I could sing. And so then we got the marriage of the two. We've got the guitar playing
Ah.
and the vocals.
I did not know that story, and I am so excited to hear that because a mutual friend of ours, Tracy Thomas, I
Yeah.
don't know if you know her as Tracy or Tisha.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know her as
yeah.
Tracy.
Yes.
But
Yes.
she told me, she gave me your contact information for which
Yeah.
I was truly grateful, and I love Tracy, but I did not know that story. But she said that you would have my show is never give up. That's my
Mm.
concept. And she said that you would have a story for that. So I want to expand a little bit more on that. Um, so did you have surgery, or how did you cure that? And
So
what was it exactly?
yeah. So turns out, and it's one of those things where I had suffered kind of blindly my whole life. And I'd always had a very limited vocal range. I had about 2 octaves on a good day, and, I mean, I would always try to sing, and I could always carry a tune, but it was very scratchy, very hoarse, and my voice would fatigue very quickly to where I would be using every muscle in my throat just to try to push sound out. I was just very inhibited, and I never knew why. And, I'm trying to tell this story kind of in order of a timeline. When I was, first married, I guess I was about 21, 22. I started having these episodes where I would wake up in the middle of the night drowning in stomach acid. Like, and what I mean drowning, like I would literally wake up gasping and aspirating, and I would tilt my head forward, and acid would pour out of my nose and out of my
Oh
mouth
my
like a faucet.
word.
I mean, it was extreme. And so I became aware in my early 20s that I suffered from severe acid reflux. Now, that doesn't sound like too big of a deal. It's like, oh, well, you got heartburn, take some Tums. This was different. This was an attack. And so it turns out, as I went to a doctor later, I'd been suffering from this my whole life. It turns out there's something called silent reflux where you don't have the heartburn, you don't feel the burn, and so you're not aware that every night acid is coming up. And apparently, a light bulb went off one day with my mom because I was telling her, I was like, man, this acid reflux thing is really bad. And mom, she goes, it's funny. When you were a little baby, I mean, just newborn, you couldn't hold anything down, and everything we fed you came back up, and we took you to a doctor, and it turns out you had a birth defect, that the sphincter in your stomach that keeps stomach acid in, like it stays closed. Mine doesn't close. Mine is wide open always. And so when I lay down, stomach acid just washes up. And so it was kind of a light bulb moment of I have this part of my body that doesn't work, and literally my whole life, my vocal cords, my esophagus had been fried in stomach acid. And that's why I was
Wow.
chronically hoarse, chronically in pain. And so I started getting treated, and surgery was an option, but I chose not to do the surgery because it turns out it's not a permanent fix. It lasts optimistically about a decade, and it kind of slowly undoes itself, and you have to go through it again. So I opted for lifestyle changes, sleeping, sitting up, medication, diet changes, and also going to Vanderbilt Vocal, where they taught me how to speak correctly and how to sing correctly, because it turns out I had been suffering from this for so long that I was even talking in a way that compensated for the pain that I was in, and I talked harder than I needed to. I talked from a place that would get around the pain and the inflammation. So I basically had to back up and relearn how to use my vocal cords.
Wow.
I mean,
What
it
a
was a
story.
lot. That was about a decade journey of figuring out what was wrong, how to fix it, and then how to break the bad habits that I'd had as a result of it.
So do you still sleep sitting up?
I do. Yep.
Okay.
I sleep at about a 20-degree angle, and I have bricks under my headboard, that actually lifts my whole bed up at an angle so that gravity works in my favor.
Well, that is admirable that it's funny. So you knew you could carry a tune when you were younger, or you
Yeah,
knew you could carry a tune, but you just couldn't get it out.
correct. Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I always had a good ear, and I could sing along to anything, church songs
Yeah.
or whatever, but when I tried to sing, like, perform, or if I was in a studio setting or whatever, I had about a 30-minute window before my voice was just completely, dead in the water and just wouldn't work anymore.
And so now you can do a whole show, I assume.
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, before I was on The Voice, I spent about 3 years in the downtown Nashville honky tonks playing 4 hours
Yes.
a day on my feet, no breaks. And so, yeah, I was doing 4-hour shows, just top to bottom,
Wow.
no breaks.
Yeah, and I had a show one time where and I saw your publicity information, and it said something about how you had gotten your training ground at that honky tonk.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it is a training ground, because as an artist, you're up there, and in some respects, sometimes
Yeah.
you have a rowdy group that aren't paying attention to you,
Correct.
and
Oh, yeah.
how you handle that is I remember I just walked down off stage, and I went around and stood in front of the table and just sang to them.
Yeah, yeah, I did that a couple times too.
It
You
worked.
find ways to
But
it did, it definitely got attention, and I'll tell you, those kinda rooms, that's where I became an entertainer. It was the
yeah,
hardest boot camp any entertainer could
yeah.
go through, because that wasn't just 1 gig, that was 3 years of 5 days a week, 4 hours a day of just getting talked over, screamed over, ignored, beer spilled on you, and eventually, I got those crowds to pay attention, and I had whole groups of people that would sit there in the front of that stage for the whole 4 hours I was playing.
That's
And
awesome. And getting them to listen is a trick. It's a
yeah,
trick.
well, it's just a matter of, over time, I would make a mental note. If I sang a song that made people turn around, I'm like, "Okay, there's something to that." I would start modifying my set list according to the songs that made people turn around, or the stories that I would tell that made people laugh and go, "Hey, I'm gonna stick around for a minute." And, fast forward to the year after The Voice, I was able to launch my first ever, full-fledged tour, and we went coast to coast on the Straight Shot tour, and that whole show that I put together was comprised of the songs and stories that made people turn around in the honky tonks.
Yeah, that's awesome. On that straight shot video, and I loved the lyrics. I am a pride myself as a lyricist myself, and I
Yeah,
loved your lyrics. They were
thank you,
funny,
thank
they
you,
were clever, and then I want the video itself was super cool.
thank you.
Um, and I liked, so I wondered, based on the lyric, I figured you probably were very strong on your opinions in the video. Is that correct?
I was. Yeah, I'm strong in my opinion about everything, for sure.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody ever has to wonder very long what I'm thinking.
It must be us Oklahoma girls.
Yep, yeah, I think same could be said about Reba and, some of the other Spitfire women that have come out of Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, I thought that was one cool video.
Oh, thank you. We
Um,
shot that on iPhones with just me and my mama.
really. And
We
again, I had
did.
read that you and your mom are very close, and I'm close to my mom. I think that's wonderful. You said she's your biggest supporter.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Well, that's my husband, I have to say, is my biggest supporter, but my mom is second.
I love that. Well, if I had a husband, he'd probably be mine too, or he'd better be
Well,
anyway.
you know what? You're just rocking right now. I know you've got two shows coming up.
I do.
One in
Yeah.
a couple of days or 3 days.
Yeah,
December
yeah.
16th.
Yeah,
Now
so
it's
that's not even a show. It's a tour bus tour is what it is, and we get a bunch of our, tour buses and we park them. I guess in this case, it's gonna be at Henderson First Baptist Church here in Tennessee, and, it's kind of like just a cool thing for parents to get to bring their kiddos, and they get to hop on different tour buses and see what it's like on a tour bus, and we sign autographs and take pictures, and my dog Tater's gonna be there, so he's gonna be signing autographs.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a lot of fun.
What kind of dog is he?
He is a little spotted weenie dog.
Oh, okay. A spotted weenie dog.
He's called a double dapple.
I don't think I've ever seen one of those. I'm a cat person, but I
Oh,
love
you're
dogs
a
too.
cat person. Okay, that's fair. Well, anybody that don't like dogs, I just don't trust them.
Oh no, I love all animals.
Me
I don't
too.
like snakes and I don't like spiders. Of course, they're not animals, so we don't have to
No,
worry
they're
about
not. If
that.
they don't got fur, they're not animals.
That's really true. But so you've got that thing coming up and then you've got another show a couple days after that.
Yeah,
What's
on
that?
December 19th, I'm gonna be joining my good friend and American Idol finalist, Janelle Arthur. We've got a big banging Christmas show coming up in Lebanon, Tennessee, at the Capitol Theater, and we're really looking forward to that.
So are you going to be singing Christmas songs?
We are. I'm gonna be singing "Run Run Rudolph," which I've released as a single a couple years ago, and then I'm actually gonna be hanging around and backing up the band too, playing guitar.
Oh, cool, cool. I have to say you remind me of a very good friend of mine, Wanda Jackson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
she
I hope
was
that's a good thing.
it is a great thing. She was an upstart. I mean, she was rock and roll country. I
Yeah.
mean, and which is your forte and your voice and your delivery. You just remind me a lot of her and she's, of course, one of the greatest.
Well, thank you.
So,
Thank you. I
you're
appreciate that.
you're you're welcome. Let me look over my notes real fast
Oh,
and
of
this will
course.
be edited out.
Oh, yeah.
So, let me ask you this, Jordan. Um, what do you get your inspiration from to write music?
Well, it's the way I've been writing for the last 10 years, I don't ever write by myself. It's very rare that I do. I'll have ideas come to me. Sometimes I'll be listening to the radio and a DJ will say something and pass and I'll be like, "Hey, that's kind of funny. I think I'm going to tuck that away." Song titles usually come to me first and then I'll call up a good friend or a couple good friends and we'll get in a writing room together and we'll kick around ideas that have struck us funny and usually a song title will spark a conversation and we'll kind of get to talking about that idea and say, okay, I think there's enough there. I think there's enough story material there that we could write something to that. And so at that point, we just use our creativity and we'll either pull from experiences we've been through to kind of plug into that subject, or we'll even make it up and just kind of go on a true creative binge. But yeah, typically song titles come to me first, and then the next thing I do is try to pick out a guitar signature that'll kind of help us get the musical groove going, and it takes a life of its own from there.
So, when you do your collaboration, it's always in person, or have you got
Yeah,
some people that you work with that are not nearby?
I very rarely will do a Zoom right. I just love to be in the room. There's something about it, and delays and stuff through Zoom and all the tech stuff that can go wrong can really disrupt the creative process. I love to be in person.
Okay. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How long does it typically take you from that first fruition of an idea to getting your song where you're ready to put it out and go to the studio?
That really varies. I've had songs that we've gotten it right in the first 3 hours, and we walk away going, "Man, we wrote that to the wall. It's perfect." And then there's, songs like there's a couple that I've written recently where we had a really good 2 or 3 hour writing session, and then we'd all get in a group text later and go, "Hey, that second verse, isn't hitting me as strong as it did in the writing room. Let's think about that." And we'll text back and forth, and sometimes it'll take several months before we really nail it down and go, "Yep, that's it." And like, Miranda Lambert had a song called "The House That Built Me," one of the greatest songs ever written, I think. And it took about 3 years of rewrites before they finally got to the final version that Miranda recorded 7 years later.
Wow. See, I'm not anxious, but I have a hard time. I would have a hard time for it being that long just because I get excited to get
Yeah,
something out,
right. Yeah. Well,
But that's patient.
it's patient because when especially when a song is worth it, there's some songs that you just write for the sake of getting to hang out with your friends and it's fun and it's kind of a social event, and those you can crank out in the day and kind of forget about them and revisit them a year later and go, "Oh, that was a fun song." But there are hooks, there are titles that don't come around very often, and it's your duty as a songwriter to get it right. And you can't rush it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you owe a great idea to see it to completion and to be patient with it and to make sure that you don't rob an idea of its potential.
Yeah, I love that, and I totally agree with that. Now, if you have a young songwriter listening to this show today, what advice would you give them on how to, or even a musician,
Sure.
a young person who's trying to work at a guitar? What advice would you give them on how to pursue their dream?
It depends on what the dream is. I think that looks different for everybody. If you're just wanting to have your music pay your bills and keep you out of a day job, there's just hitting the pavement, trying to find a good booker that's local to you, that'll work with somebody that's developing and up and coming, that can help you get some gigs. Man, play everywhere you can, even if it's just little dive bars, because what you want to do is just develop a name, develop recognition in your area. And by your area, I mean, if you can get the 3 or 4 surrounding counties to all know who your name is and they love to show up when you play places, you're going to be able to make your rounds and hit that circuit, just kind of repeat it once a quarter and make a dang good living doing it. Now, if you want to be on the tour bus and you want to be running with Carrie Underwood and Reba McEntire, it takes a lot of money. It ain't just luck. It ain't just talent. You need money. You need all three. You need luck, talent, and money. And that comes from literally more than a decade of beating the pavement, networking, making connections, meeting people, playing for anybody that'll let you play for them, writing with anybody that'll let you write with them. It's a tough game, and even then, you're not guaranteed it. But social media, I would say, like, to get back to your real question, the one piece of advice I would give to anybody looking to make a living out of music at any capacity: social media. If you don't have a connection with a fan base and you're not consistently growing and engaging and giving people a storyline to follow on to, a reason to be engaged and interested in what you're doing, in this day and age, you will not make it. So become good at creating content and getting people invested in your story.
Well, that is excellent, very good advice. And I know you have a publicist, but wow, you could be one.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Who knows? I'm good at talking, and I think I got a pretty good head on my shoulders. I could probably do some damage on some younger kiddos and help them get on the right track.
Yeah. So you live in Nashville now,
I do.
right?
Yeah, I'm here in my home studio right now, matter of fact.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it looks pretty cool back there. You got some guitars on the
Oh, more than I need,
wall.
really.
And
Yeah, they're everywhere.
I got, for my anniversary, we celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary.
You do not look old enough to have done anything for 40 years.
Yay. No, yeah.
Yeah, did
No,
you
we
get
got
married
married
when you
when
were
I was
4?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. It was kind of bad, but we lived in Stillwater, and so, they do things a little bit different in the
Yeah,
country.
yeah. Go
But
Pope.
anyway, he got me a Zager guitar.
Okay.
Zager. Have you ever heard of that kind of a
Never have.
guitar? There's a guy who sang in the year 2525. I don't know if you know that song, but
Yeah,
it's from
yeah.
maybe the 70s.
Okay.
And so his last name was Zager, and he had a hit with that song. And then he hated touring. He hated all of it. So then
Yep.
he ended up stopping and making guitars. And his whole thing is easy play. He
Yeah.
wants it to be easy to play.
Yeah.
And so I got me one of those Zager guitars and I
Love it.
love it. And it's got a
Good.
beautiful sound. Yeah, it's cool. So
Good.
what's your
I
favorite
love that.
guitar?
Man, I got my old trusty resonator from Gold Tone, which they gave me as a gift on the show. And I got that, and I've got my 1960 custom shop Fender Telecaster that is my pride and joy, and her name is Fancy.
Is Fancy the one that you played in the straight shot video?
No, that is Dorothy. That is my red Telecaster.
So all your guitar, see, I haven't done that. Maybe that's why I can't play as good as you, as I
You
haven't
gotta
named
name
my
them.
guitars.
They gotta have a name. They gotta be part of the family.
Well, I will think about that.
You do. I mean, think about it. If you're living in somebody's house and they don't call you by your name, you don't feel special to them. You got to be able to call them by name so that they sing for you.
I love that. And I want to read a quote that I've got here that Reba McEntire said about you. She said, Jordan, you are so different. And that's what we need in country music. Your enthusiasm, your passion, your love for country music. We need you in there. Absolutely. You are a force of nature. That is just a wonderful thing that she said about you.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. That was the night that I got eliminated, and I think she knew it, and I knew it. We knew it was coming, and Reba and I had such a special bond during the show. And I knew she was pulling for her team, but I knew that she would have been tickled to death if I had won as well. And yeah, that night we knew in our hearts that I was going home, and I knew that whenever she said those words, she wanted them to stick because that might have been like the last thing on TV that she ever got to say to me. So yeah, I remember those words by heart.
Well, and she obviously meant it. She did, and she was sincere when she said
Yeah.
that to you because I saw that clip. Um, Back in the 80s, probably before you were born.
Yeah, I was born in 90.
Okay. Well, we produced Frank Sinatra in
Wow.
concert and we produced some other people, but we were going to produce Reba. And at the time she was just coming out. And I
Yeah.
think she was 15,000 for the show. And
Wow. That was a
Jim
lot.
Halsey. Yeah, Jim Halsey was representing. Well, Sinatra was 225,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so but I always wish we had done the show with her because has she had some longevity.
Yeah, she's about as prolific as they come.
Yeah. What did she when she was being your coach, was there something that stood out to you that she taught you that helped you advance in your career?
Yeah, more than I could tell you. Um, I battled really bad stage fright during the show, and I remember reaching out to her. I had a real bad episode of it during Stranger in My House. One of the performances that I did, I had a huge wave of terror come over me during the performance, and I thought I was going to pass out on live TV. And it rattled me, really rattled me. And I was
Yeah.
afraid that it would happen again on the next round. And so I had reached out to her and I said, Coach, do you have anything that you can, just any advice you can give me on stage fright? And she talked to me and she brought her boyfriend Rex in on the conversation as well and just gave me some really comforting and reassuring advice on how to deal with that mentally. And yeah, just tons of, I mean, I guess you could call it career advice, but I think it was more just advice on how to be the woman you want to be and the person you want to be. And that translated in my career as well, just to show up on time, to stay curious, to have a good attitude, to do everything to the best of your ability, those kind of things that she just reiterated that I respect so much about her.
So, well, I'm not going to let you off that light because I'd like to know myself what was one of the tricks that she told you on the stage fright. What did she tell you to how to handle it?
Well, she reminded me for one thing that people like Carol Burnett, suffered from stage fright and, a member of the Eagles suffered. She gave me a list of people that suffered from really bad stage fright and continued to have great careers. But one of the things that she told me was to talk to my subconscious and to tell myself it's a one-time thing. That was a one-time thing. She said, just start now, even if you have to do it all week leading up to the next round. You coach your subconscious into thinking it's no big deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've had this happen before too, where, well, I did a Christmas show last year, and I mean, it was chestnuts roasting on an open fire. I was saying it a
Yeah.
thousand times, and I did not remember the first word.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and so I'm sitting there and telling the piano player, "Oh, that sounds so pretty. Why don't you just keep on playing?"
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah. Oh, it's rough. I mean, I had it hit me. Um, I I did the national anthem at a NASCAR race this year and had big old bout of stage fright hit me, and my version of the national anthem had no ramparts in it. I completely spaced on that line and repeated a different line, and I was horrified. And matter of fact, I texted Reba about it afterward, and I said I just botched the anthem in front of 3 million people, and she said, "Just apologize on social media and move on." She was very just like, just don't even sweat it. Don't make a big deal about it. Just tell them how excited you were and that you just forgot a word because you were so excited. And she said, and just leave it behind you.
That's super advice. Whenever you have things that go on in your life that
Yeah.
don't work well for you, it's,
Yeah.
learn, live and learn,
Yep.
and go on.
She's
And
she's the
don't
queen of that. Yeah. Very much live and learn, take your mistake and then put it behind you and keep walking.
when at the very beginning of our little talk today, you said something about how you'd had some people criticize you for certain things that you'd said about wearing the pink or
Mhm.
whatever. And I'm sure anybody who gets themselves in the public eye gets haters.
Yeah.
It's just life. So how do you handle those kind of people? Do you just ignore them, or do you respond, or how do you handle them?
Well, I've got what I call my sniper on my team. I've got my personal assistant, Hillary. She's got passwords to all my social media, and part of her job description is to go through every morning and to find the hate and get rid of it before I see it. So she literally snipes that stuff down before I can get it. And so the few that get past her, they don't bother me near as much because they don't pile up.
Yeah. And there's people from all walks. I mean, there's some poker bloggers. My husband listens to poker bloggers, and he and
Yeah.
his wife, he's very popular.
Yeah.
They talk about getting haters, and they
Yeah.
just choose not to look at them. But as you when you put yourself out, and that's what something else, for the younger people that are up and comers, when you put yourself out there, you put yourself out there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you run the risk of having that kind of thing, and it's how you handle it. um you realize it for what it is, and um to me the
Well,
best thing is to ignore it.
it is, and you mentioned earlier my brand, the Woman in Black, and she is the Woman in Black, the persona, the stage woman. She is somebody that I have built to be able to take that. She's my Batman to my Bruce Wayne. She can take the hits. She can be made fun of, and Jordan Shay safe somewhere tucked in the background. I know those people aren't coming for Jordan Shay. They're coming from Jordan Rayner, the girl in the hat, the girl in the glasses, the girl they don't like her voice. They can hate the Woman in Black because they don't know Jordan Shay.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
true. So, but
So
and I do, like
yeah, you don't take it too personal when it's that way.
and I do love your brand, and I love that you have stuck with that.
Mm.
um One of the things that I've done in my career is I have done Sinatra, I've done
Yeah.
reggae, I've
Yeah.
done, a whole diversified. Um, you've been, are you the same way, or have you, or is your lane country rock or rock country, and that's it, and nowhere else?
Well, I'll tell you this, what I'm doing is authentic to me. I am a gritty person. I've always had an edge. I've always had a knack for getting into trouble. And all I've done is wrap outfits and songs around that authentic part of myself. So I can't imagine doing anything else because there's no, there's no other person that I am. Now I might evolve and change over the years, who knows, but this is working for me and it feels right. And I'll do it as long as people get joy from it.
I love that. And that's why, again, you remind me, Wanda Jackson would have answered the same thing.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
good for you.
Yeah.
And good for you with all your awards. You've gotten a multiple, like Texas, you've got the 2023 best songwriter or best
female artist of the year, I think it was.
Okay, here, let me say it again. You were a top finalist on NBC's Voice, which we've talked about, but in 2023, you were the new female artist of the year in the Texas Country Music Awards. And that is a big state and a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. I'm so grateful for the love that Texas radio has showed me and continues to show me. And we had a big old #1 with Straight Shot on Texas radio. And then we followed it up with Painted Horses, which also went to #1 on the Texas radio music charts. So we're getting lots of love down there in Oklahoma, Texas. And we got some great shows coming up in 2025 for Oklahoma and Texas too.
Awesome. Well, we're going to be playing your music after this show. And we'll play a couple of your great songs, and we'll be keeping it on the rotation at Bootleggers. So, Jordan, I want to thank you so much for giving us your time.
It was a pleasure.
You're a real talent, and I am excited to see your next projects.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and fun talking to you.
You have been listening to Darla Z, live from the Hollywood Room on the Bootleggers Music Group Radio. Be sure to check out all our shows and download our app at www.bootleggersmusicgroup.com. The Bootleggers Music Group is dedicated to bringing you uplifting, educational, and inspiring shows for the love of God, one tune, and one show at a time. Be sure to visit Darla Z at www.darlaz.com to learn more about your award-winning host. Thanks for listening to or watching the Bootleggers Music Group Radio. Executive producer, Paul E. Jones.